from Altrincham Physiotherapy Clinic, and this is number 7 in our video series looking at promoting a healthier back. The title of this video is called You Don't Need a Mat. Now, you don't need a mat to do some things to really help to maintain a good and healthy lower back. So we thought we'd have a little look at doing some things where we're sitting and standing. Unfortunately, a lot of us spend a lot of time sitting either in the car or at a desk. So being able to have some things that you can do actually while you're in the chair is a really useful way of fitting some activities into your daily life. I'm going to go sideways on so you get a slightly better view. The first exercise we'll go through is called thigh sliders. So you're sitting with your feet onto the floor, just with your feet slightly wider than hip distance there. Resting your hands onto your thighs, and then we're folding one elbow as we rotate round, sliding the opposite hand along the thigh and off the knee, and then we reverse. So you will need to sit slightly away from the back of the chair for this exercise. And we're rotating side to side, trying to spiral with the upper back particularly around. Your head and neck follows in line with your breastbone. So we're being careful not to just strain and look over your shoulder with the head and neck. Allow that movement to be guided by the flow of your hands along the thighs, side to side. Nice gentle movements, working up to maybe 5 each side to allow that smooth mobility through your spine. Once you've done that gentle rotation, we can focus on a little bit more of a stretch through some of the muscles that can become very tight along the side of the spine when we're sitting. If you cross your hands across your chest, for this then, we turn first into rotation, then nod your chin down, and we'll roll forwards, peeling down towards your legs there, and you'll feel a lovely stretch running across along the opposite side of your spine. Lifting back to the centre, and then rotating back to that mid position, and we can repeat that the opposite way. So we turn first, nod chin towards your chest, and think of peeling forwards. Again, so that you feel that lovely stretch through those muscles that can become tight through the base of the spine. Then we're lifting back up and back to the centre. Now this is a slightly slower movement than the thigh sliders. We're holding just for that short amount of time, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, to allow that stretch through those larger muscles. And so you might find that you don't do quite as many, even if you're just doing 3 each side. It's a lovely way to try to release some of the pressure through the base of the spine. Building on from this then, a pelvic tilt is also a really nice way of getting a little bit of release through those lowest segments where we carry a lot of pressure. Again, you need to have your feet planted onto the floor and be sitting away from the back of the chair. You can rest your hands onto those bones either sides of your pelvis, and then tucking the tailbone under to roll down, thinking of trying to create a deep C curve through the base of the back, and then rolling back up. Don't worry if initially it's a very, very small movement, particularly if you've been sitting for a little while. You might find that you really don't get a lot of movement with this at all. As well as focusing on the curve under, thinking of feeling that weight as we come forwards through the sit bones and then gently just into the thighs. So we do lift into a little bit of extension if you can through the base of the back. This is like the pelvic tilt exercise that we do in lying. And we use that in lying to find our neutral position, and we can also do this here in sitting. So it's quite a nice one to do when you're thinking about trying to set yourself into a good posture. If you feel that movement between as far down and then as far forwards as you can come, and we're trying to stop halfway so that we feel the weight and pressure going down through our sit bones, through those bony parts of our bottom there, then we know that we've got our pelvis in that neutral position. And that's one of the best positions, not only for our weight to be dispersed in, but also for us to work that corset, that sling of muscles, that transverse abdominis muscle that runs across your pelvis. And you could, once you've done some of those pelvic tilts, use that opportunity then just to think about engaging into those deep muscles. So thinking of that sensation of gently drawing your tummy button through to your spine, but there's no movement with your body. You're just feeling that tightening into your lower tummy and then gently releasing. Again, you could also access it by thinking of your pelvic floor, so that sensation of gently slowing down, passing water, and then releasing. Okay. You could initially just practice switching that on and off, or you could have a go at seeing if you can hold it, maybe for a count of 5, so that we're getting those muscles switching on with us consciously thinking of it in the hope that it becomes a little bit automatic. And I mean, this is one that you could potentially do a little bit of, even if you were sitting in the car or something. You don't need too much space at all. Okay. So once we've done this, once you've found that mid position, it might also be the opportunity then to think about the position that you then sit in. So once you've found that centre, you can then take yourself back to the back of the chair, and it might be here that you want to put a small rolled up towel or a lumbar support roll in to help promote that position with your spine while you're working. And one big thing to think about with your posture when you're sitting is that you have your feet secured onto the floor and that you have that little bit of support maybe into the base of your spine to keep those natural curves of your spine in the best position, whether that be when you're driving or whether that be when you're working. Also, our upper back, unfortunately, can start to carry quite a bit of tension because we do tend to reach forwards, come into a lot of flexion. So where your ribs are attaching, your thoracic spine can start to carry a lot of stiffness. A lovely stretch for up and into your thoracic spine is to think about going into a little bit of extension. Now you do need to do this onto a solid chair like this, onto a dining chair. Don't do it on your desk chair, okay, at all. Another big key point is that we don't allow the neck to go into extension. So it's not about any strain or any movement of the neck, it is your upper body. If you have your hands crossed across your chest, sometimes I get people just to rest their thumbs onto their chins so that you can check that your chin doesn't start to drop forwards, okay? You're sitting right into the back of the chair and you're gently going to lift your breastbone and tilt over the curve of the chair into a little bit of extension. It can be a very small movement, okay? And you might find that you'll meet quite a bit of resistance and pressure through the upper part of your back as you tilt into that little bit of extension. You could also use one hand or both hands into behind your back of your head and neck if you feel that you want that little bit of support into your neck. And just a couple of those switches us on with thinking about where your thoracic spine is sitting, but also maybe loosen some of that areas where there's stiffness is starting to build up. So that's some exercises in sitting. If we come up to standing, because you've been sitting with the hips folded for a while, what can happen is your hip flexors become quite short and tight. So once you come up from sitting, thinking about just gently opening through the front of the groin and through the front of the hip can be really useful. You might want to support yourself onto your chair or onto the wall, but simply taking your leg back into extension from the hip starts automatically to open over the front of the hip there. We want to keep your shoulders and your hips facing forwards and front. Now, some people, if you're quite tight, you might feel that that is enough of a stretch, and if you do, that's as far as you go. Standing up tall, maybe thinking of that gentle tightening into your lower tummy, taking that foot behind onto the toe to get that stretch through the front of the thigh, through the front of the groin. If it isn't enough of a stretch though here, what we can do is keeping to the toe of the back leg, gently fold both knees to sink down, and then you really think of tucking your tailbone under. And as you rotate round through the pelvis, we're increasing that stretch over the front of the thigh and really helping to lengthen those structures which have been in a very folded position when you've been sitting for a little while. Body is still upright. You go to where you feel your stretch, and because they are quite big structures, give them a chance to adapt and change. So that good 10, maybe towards 30-second hold, step back in, and then change over to the opposite side. Stepping back, not enough of a stretch, we'll soften into both knees, draw your tailbone under, feel that stretch over the front of the thigh there, and again hold, give those structures a chance to adapt and change, and then step back in and maybe work up to 3 of those each side. Also then, through the base of the spine, we can tend to fall into a little bit of flexion when we've been sitting, so working into a little bit of extension through the base of the back, as we did in the upper back with sitting, supporting your hands just into the small of your back there, top of the pelvis. Knees can be a little soft, though they don't bend as you do the movement. And again, keep the chin gently tucked down so we're not straining at the neck at all. And we're arching back, peeling into a little bit of extension through the base of the spine. Almost imagine you've got one of those little soft balls maybe tucked into the base of the back, and we're trying to curve through those small segments into that little bit of extension. So this is something, if you've been driving, stop the car, getting out for a coffee, you can have a little stand up, do a couple of those before you go off and get yourself a nice drink. Also in standing, simply, you can have your hands to the side of the legs and then doing a little bit of side bending. Really important with this is that it is a pure movement to the side, that you're not starting to come forwards. So standing nice and strong, think of maybe that little lift into your lower tummy. Follow the line of your leg as you peel down into that stretch and then come back to the centre. It again could be very small to start off with. Don't push into pain. Try to really make sure that you don't come forwards of your body, that it is just that pure side bending movement. And again, maybe building up each time if you can, up to around 5 times each side. And the last movement that you could do in standing, maybe once you got up from your desk or something, is to think about a roll down. So with this, it's really important that we do have some sensation of tightening into those lower tummy muscles, that the sling is switching on. Your hands rest to the front of your thighs. You're going to nod your chin towards your chest. Keep your knees a little soft, and we'll peel forwards into that stretch through your spine, rolling down just as far as you can go comfortably. You will start to feel a little stretch through the legs, probably through the back of the shoulders and into the neck, but don't force into a position where you can feel any pain or you get any shaking. Then on the way back up, we press into the heels, lift with that lower tummy, think of drawing round from your tailbone, restacking smoothly to come back up to standing tall, pulling the shoulders back and thinking of that lift up and away through the crown of the head. Now, because that's quite a strong exercise, you might find that you only want to do sort of 2 or 3 of those at a time, or even 1. But hopefully that series gives you a few ideas of things that you could do either while you're sitting or when you get up from sitting. But remember, the biggest top tip is that don't sit for too long. In an ideal physio world, you'd be getting up and moving every 20 to 30 minutes. Now, I know that's not possible for everybody, but if you can, movement is best, or use some of these exercises to keep that mobility while you're still.